Welcome back to Factor Fictional. I'm your host, Veronica Belmont, and this is a show where we look at the cool tech and science from your favorite TV shows, movies, video games, and comic books, and ask, is this real life? That's not actually what we ask. We ask, is this possible, or is it totally fictional, in the realm of fiction? Last week we covered one of my favorite TV shows, Breaking Bad, and you guys had some things to say about that, like GRK Pectus, who says, how can you not talk about the giant magnet? That was my favorite mad scientist moment of the show. I'm sorry, I guess I kind of forgot about the giant magnet, but you know what? I think that is just real. The giant magnet is just real. I mean, that was a huge ass magnet. Have you seen that thing? I mean, magnets like that pick up cars and junkyards all the time. I mean, I didn't even think that was up for debate, really. But the giant magnet scene was totally awesome. Are you guys watching the new season? It's so good, right? Oh my God! And then Superb Gamer said, I saw this on Mythbusters yesterday. Yeah, well, you know what? I don't have weekly production calls with Adam and Jamie, so I don't know what content they're working on. I just thought it was a good episode idea. I'm sorry. Yes, I know we're owned by the same parent company, but sometimes, you know, we do similar kinds of content. You did watch all the Shark Week stuff, right? That was across the board. We all did shark stuff. That's kind of how it works around here. This week we are looking at the tech behind the upcoming film Closed Circuit. Now in this film, two lawyers are kind of being tracked over CCTV by the government. They're working on this high-profile terrorist case. Things get all kinds of crazy. I actually don't know too much about the film because it's still relatively new, but we wanted to know if someone could be tracked by closed-circuit television. It's very prevalent in the UK where the film takes place, but not as much here in the US. But is it a security issue? Is it a privacy issue that we should be thinking about? So today we are speaking to security consultant Aditya Sood about just that. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So for people who don't know, what is CCTV and how is it used?
So actually, as the name suggests, the CCTV in itself states that it's a closed circuit television, and it is the kind of system that is being used by a number of video cameras that actually transmit signals to a closed source on a, you can say a dedicated set of monitors. It is quite different from the broadcasting television because of the fact that the broadcasting television utilizes the open signals, which is not in a case of closed circuit CCTV cameras. And a simple CCTV system consists of 4 or 5 different components. The first in itself is a camera, which actually typically records video, images, audio files, and everything. Then all these files get encoded and compressed and transferred back to the DVR. These are the DVR in states that is a digital video recorder. And then we also have an NVR called as a network video recorder, which is being used by modern CCTV cameras. And in addition to that, we have one component called as a combiner. Combiner actually states that how the video images have to be displayed on a screen. So overall, CCTV in itself is a system which comprises of 4 or 5 these components.
So who has access to these CCTVs? Is it, like, for example, if one is owned by a private business, would the government have access to that in a time of need?
I would say that it's a very tricky question in that regards when it comes to public and private sector, but I think government is all powerful. But again, it depends upon a scenario. If they, for example, consider a scenario if there is a significant risk to the national integrity, or there is a threat to certain places which are very critical from a political perspective. And in those cases, I think government can take a step and they can simply get an access to all those kind of data. And because what happened, everything is getting stored on a hard disk. And so government can take a step and definitely access that. That's not at all a problem. But again, there is a significant risk in one part because we are living in a world of technology and we have a proper cyber laws constructed. Mm-hmm. And there isn't a law exists for like right to privacy. You cannot actually spook or snoop on the activities of an individual because it's a breach of privacy and you cannot do that. But again, if you map that, if that particular person is significant risk to a national integrity or typical cases like that, I think government can move forward and take a step to definitely look into those kind of data.
Now you mentioned that the cameras are recording to a DVR. Is any of this footage available to view live, for example? I know you said it can't be broadcast out, but if someone was sitting in some kind of control room, they could still watch that content live.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually the functionality of this thing. As I stated earlier, in the component model of CCTV cameras, like there's an embedded web server, so there are also monitors which actually use the components called as combiners. But there are CCTV cameras that are driven with old technology, and there are new ones. The new ones are actually based on the IP networks, and we are using wireless networks. which typically uses the internet protocol to transmit, encode, and compress the signals. But again, that's true, and you just mentioned pretty right point here. Even there's due to some security issues and the configuration of these CCTV cameras, it is still possible for a remote user to view certain set of cameras that are not configured properly. I mean, if I remember correctly, yesterday I was doing some test, and it's very easy to simply do a Google search for an access camera, let's say, and you can find 50,000 cameras that are exposed on the internet. And these cameras that are exposed can be viewed by any attacker or even a script kiddie, right? Mm-hmm. And so there are several factors that contribute to it, but it can be viewed remotely too.
So what issues would someone who is trying to perhaps monitor an individual's actions through multiple CCTVs, would that be even possible?
If you talk about theoretically or technically, this is possible, because let's say, but again, it's a constrained area. Let's say you are sitting in a one premises, right? And you wanna monitor one of your employee. And that is possible because you can, set up a CCTV cameras in different directions. But again, there is the thing that we have to really took into consideration is that it's the right to privacy. Who gives us the right to actually scoop or snoop that I stated earlier on the privacy of an individual, right? Right to privacy state that if somebody does that, and if somebody files a complaint for this kind of procedure, he can be prosecuted by the law, and one can be under sentenced for a couple of years.
Well, let's say the government doesn't give a hoot about privacy laws, for example. Not to say that that is happening right now, but let's just say that. Would they be able to theoretically track an individual over multiple CCTV systems using something like facial recognition or some other kind of identifier to track them throughout the country?
Yeah, absolutely, that's possible. But again, the question comes to the practical feasibility condition here that we have to really look into. For example, the government cannot deploy their own cameras in the private campuses of an organization. What they can do is that they can get in touch with those authorities, and from the policy side or maybe the regulatory side, they can simply say that, hey, government wants this kind of data for that particular individual if he's working in your organization. And then they can access it. But again, if you say like the government can do, typically there's in public areas, different agencies that deploy different kind of CCTV cameras, like transportation authorities, museums, and all that. That is still possible. But again, if they have to target a particular individual, they have to get in touch with the other authorities.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to answer our questions today.
Thanks, and thanks for having me.
So yeah, I would definitely say that this is pretty factual. I mean, if the government really wants to see something, they're going to find a way to see something. Whether or not that's live is to be up for debate, but they can definitely, get the information they need by going to those DVRs, asking those private sector businesses to give them that data, or just, kind of manhandle their way in there. So should we be scared? Yes, absolutely. Always be scared. Although it is kind of cool to think that you can just go on the internet and basically Google up these closed circuit televisions. But don't do that, because privacy. Let me know what you want to see on a future episode of Fact or Fictional. Hit me up on Twitter @Veronica, or leave a comment in the YouTube video below down here. And let me know who you want me to talk to, what kind of topics you want me to cover. I am here to do your bidding, Internet. And make sure you come back every Friday for brand new episodes of the show. I'll see you next time.